Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mike Brewer with Chamber Talk on Fairfield Public Access Television Channel 9, and today's date is August 21, 1995. First of all, a couple of news items for the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce. Nancy Breen, the administrative assistant at the Fairfield Chamber, has returned home from her first week of the U.S. Chamber Institute at Charleston, South Carolina. She's had a great time. A lot of learning experience has taken place in Charleston, and she missed the hurricane, so all in all, it was a very exciting week for her. On last Thursday, Sarah Cochran, the president-elect of the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce, called the nominating committee together, and discussion was held, and nominations will be sought for the board of directors meeting coming up on October 26th. Business after hours last Thursday night was a huge success at Whitney Monument Works. We did do the Fairfield Public Access Television Channel 9 filming last Thursday night, and that Whitney Monument show will be shown on Monday, August 28th, so stay tuned. And Richard tells me that the filming turned out very, very good, so that should be a pretty exciting program. Today is August 21, and we're getting the week started down at the office. We'll be closing on the building at 123 West Burlington today with the Department of Transportation. It's been a long situation with the Department of Transportation, but that will be happening today at 4 o'clock, and we'll be closing that sale, and the building will eventually be torn down for the widening of Highway 34, Highway 1 intersection. Tuesday, the 22nd at 5:15, the Women's Blast-Off Committee meeting will be held at the Fairfield Golf and Country Club, and they'll be looking at next year's dates and activities for Women's Blast-Off for 1996. On Wednesday, the 23rd, I'll be with the Iowa Housing Authority in Des Moines. We have an application in to the Iowa Housing Authority, and I've been asked to come up and address that situation. We'll be back at 3 in the afternoon for an International Cultural Exchange Festival Committee. That's at 3 o'clock at the Fairfield Chamber, and if anyone's interested in giving some input, please feel free to talk with either Nancy or myself between now and Wednesday at 3 o'clock. On Thursday, the 24th, the Fairfield Economic Development Association Board of Directors will be meeting at the Chamber office at 11:45. Then at 5 to 6:30, the all-teacher reception will be at the Fairfield Golf and Country Club. I want to make a special note of that. All employers and employees and spouses are cordially invited to attend the all-teacher reception. All chamber members, their employees, and their spouses are more than welcome, and we wish to welcome everyone to this very, very nice event when we get a chance to hear from all of the educators and see some of the new teachers, talk with the teachers, and they'll be introduced by their respective principals. It's also Meet the Trojan Night out at Fairfield High School Stadium. Lee Muntz will be handling that activity out there. One item of coming event that we want to mention is September 7th is the 32nd Annual Farm Barbecue. And we have secured Mark Pearson, who does the Iowa Public Television market-to-market segment, as well as noon radio for farm radio on WHO radio. So mark September 7th down, attend the 32nd Annual Farm Barbecue. Well, today it gives me a great deal of pleasure to announce to you that we're here at Vital Images right in Fairfield on North 4th Street. And with me today is Dr. Vincent Argiro, the founder and president of Vital Images. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael.
It's been some time since I've had an opportunity to come out and visit with you and see some of the activity that's been taking place out here. And of course, we'll get into it a little later, but want to visit with you about the Bio-Vascular Incorporated and their infusion into the business or coming into the business with you. But first of all, I want to talk about you and your personal history. And I think it's important for the people to hear your part of the story concerning the transfer of technology from MIU over to the private sector. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you and let you start at that point back when you were a professor on the MIU campus.
Thank you. I came to Fairfield in 1984, so it's been almost 11 years now that I've been living here full time. Of course, I had visited here a number of times before that. And as you mentioned, I was teaching cell biology and physiology in the graduate programs at MIU in 1984 and 85. And at that period, I was fortunate to secure a National Science Foundation grant for development of new technology to study biological systems. And that was joined by a companion grant from the Iowa Department of Economic Development. And the two grants together provided a basis to fund some significant technology development over a 3-year period at MIU. And in the middle of that stream of development, we became aware of some new findings in computer science and in biology that allowed us to come up with a new approach to imaging and representing the details of living structures in 3D. And that technique actually sort of took over the grant program, and as we completed the grant program, we realized that perhaps we had a technology transfer opportunity and a commercialization opportunity. And I got together with a couple of other associates here at Fairfield. We founded Vital Images in September of 1988, so we're coming up on our 7th birthday in a couple of weeks. And we founded the company as a bootstrap operation. We didn't have initial funding, but we were able, through the technology transfer, to set up basic operations and begin marketing the software in 1989. And since 1989, the company has sold over 400 licenses to its two products, VoxelView and VoxelGeo, along with their companion modules. And the software is now used by all of the leading energy exploration companies and production companies, and on the geoscience application side, and on the medical and biomedical side, it's used by all of the leading, many of the leading research universities and medical schools around the country and around the world.
Before we get too much further, I do recall going out in 86 or 87 to the campus and visiting with you at that time, and you were showing us, I think, the filming process of a cell dividing at that time, and that was kind of the first time that had ever been accomplished. Is that right?
Yes, we had produced some of the first pictures of a cell dividing in 3D using the laser scan confocal microscope. This one manufactured by Biorad of California, and we worked with a researcher at University of Arizona, collected that data and then represented that data, and it was really quite an eye-opening experience for many people, and we actually sold a lot of software based on that experiment.
Well, I know I was, to say the least, very impressed to, number one, to be able to witness that, but to be invited out to the campus at that time was a major milestone for you and your breakthrough, of which has led into the Vital Images company itself.
Yes, the university was very supportive of the technology transfer effort, and put private funding as well as the government funding into producing the technology to a point where it could be spun out into a business. And we've enjoyed a very good relationship with the university since then. The company pays royalties back to the university on the licensing of the technology, and it's been a very mutually supportive relationship.
Excellent. Well, before we get into the actual Vital Images product itself, I'd like to get a little personal with you and talk about wife and family. I know you got 2 boys, and we'd all like to hear about that.
I have 2 sons, Michael and Tegan. Both of them are in the Lincoln School. Michael will be entering the 4th grade this year, and Tegan will be entering the 3rd grade. And up behind us there is a picture that Michael's class made for me when they visited the company on a field trip a couple of years ago. And the boys are both very bright and industrious. They like sports. They're in the Taekwondo here in Fairfield, and they are now double black tip red belts and work at it very hard.
How do you handle that?
They're very well behaved with it. Their teachers have taught them discipline and manners as well as strength and skill. And they're both bright with science and math, and they like playing with the computers, and Michael is very fond of reading stories as well. And my wife Maggie is a communications consultant. She actually is doing some work here in Fairfield for Hawthorne Communications right now, promoting their infomercial national marketing efforts. And she also continues to do some consulting work for Vital Images on the side. She used to work for the company a couple of years ago and then left to pursue her own business. We have a house on in the country club area of town, just north of the golf course, which we moved into about a year and a half ago. It was both of us our first home purchase, and we're very proud to be Fairfield landowners now.
We may be neighbors then. We're on Highland Street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we're just down the street from you,
Right.
actually. I didn't realize that. So we've been very happy there. We've been very grateful for the support from Iowa State Bank for the house, and Terry Lohnberg has been very supportive of the business over the years as well, with a number of steps that we've taken.
Vincent, tell us what your actual function is here with Vital Images at this time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was, of course, the founder of the company, but I serve in the capacity of president now, and also chief technical officer of the company. I have continued to maintain an important role in the innovation of the company, but I also manage the operations here day to day as well. Since we became a subsidiary of Bio-Vascular, I now have a direct report to the CEO of Bio-Vascular in St. Paul.
Which then brings us up to, and you had given me earlier, the Bio-Vascular annual report.
Mm-hmm.
They're located in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us about, well, just tell us about that, whether it was a merger or just bring us up to date on that.
Yes, the combination with Bio-Vascular was completed just a little over a year ago, and it was a pooling of interest merger. So Vital Images is maintained as a independent but wholly owned subsidiary of Bio-Vascular, and the combined companies are very successful now. Bio-Vascular is growing very rapidly. The parent company does business in surgical supplies. They develop a set of tools which are used, materials that are used for surgeons to patch and repair areas of the body when certain surgeries are done. The most successful product in the past year has been a patch which is used to seal the lungs when emphysema patients are treated to relieve the shortness of breath that they have. And this has been tremendously successful. Many people have had a significant improvement in their condition, and it's become something of a runaway product for the operations in St. Paul. The company is growing very quickly, as I said. St. Paul operation just moved into a new plant, about a 30 or 40,000 square foot plant in downtown St. Paul. And it's been an excellent working relationship for us.
Good.
They've been
This opens up new markets for you and market support?
Yes, it gives us an opportunity to collaborate with our colleagues in St. Paul to market into the medical arena. Many leading surgeons are closely allied with the company, and it gives us the years of experience that the marketing crew up there has established in the medical business. And with our new forays into that area, we feel that we will be far more successful with a partner in going into that business.
Well, it sounds pretty exciting, and we're certainly pleased. First of all, the Vital Image is going to stay right here in Fairfield. How many employees do you have here in Fairfield?
We have about 25 people. We actually are about to ship 4 of them off through a deal that we are just now completing with one of our major business partners, with CogniSeis Development in Houston, in addition to the 25. In 1990, we began a foray into the energy exploration and production business, oil and gas. And that has been a very successful area for us. We essentially pioneered the development of a new technology for developing oil fields, and the application of volume visualization to oil and gas exploration has provided the ability for people to see, for geophysicists and geologists to see the subsurface, to see the area under the ground in a very clear and concrete three-dimensional way. So this is actually a producing field off the Gulf of Mexico, and we're looking at a region that is several miles by several miles and more than 10,000 feet deep. And the software, this image is created by our software and provides a comprehensive picture that geophysicists can use to explain to their management how to develop a new prospect for oil and gas production. And this software, as I mentioned earlier, is now used by all of the major oil companies. It's used worldwide. And a year ago, we signed a distribution agreement for VoxelGeo with CogniSeis development. And that agreement was so successful that CogniSeis made an offer to us recently to take over development and further exploitation of the technology within the oil and gas area.
And that's this VoxelGeo program that you developed right here in Fairfield.
Yes. So it is become a leading product, and it has now resulted in a major contract where we will be licensing that particular application and the core technology to accomplish it into CogniSeis development. They are going to significantly invest further in it, and we believe that there will be a very significant development for both companies over the years.
Great. So that our audience should know very clearly then that Vital Images does a lot of work in the medical field, but also now in the geological field.
Yes, although
oil
now
and gas exploration.
with this deal just coming to consummation this week, we will be in a supporting role to CogniSeis in terms of the development of core technology, and they will really further exploit that area. And that will give us the opportunity to focus very tightly and exclusively on medical imaging.
I see. Good, good. We're waiting for the train to go by, Vincent. Which is okay, it won't bother us any. Let's talk a little bit about some of the VoxelView product that you've developed over the years and have really perfected to a terrific state of art.
VoxelView was our original product that was first prototyped at MIU, and it is now being tuned up to be offered exclusively as a medical imaging tool, a tool for radiologists to use to enhance diagnosis, and a tool for surgeons to use and for radiologists to communicate with surgeons on the planning of surgery and therapy. And the technology, the illustration here is an application in functional magnetic resonance imaging, or functional MRI. And this is a new technique which has just been recently developed. These images are from the University of Minnesota in St. Paul, and this shows a person's brain, and the colored patches show the intensity of activity in that part of the brain when the person is doing a particular thing. And in this case, a person is silently thinking a word to themselves inside, and this area that's lighting up is actually the speech center of the person's brain. And so it's fascinating to see how detailed an image we can create in dimensions to help neurologists and psychiatrists deal with any abnormality that might occur. For example, this could be used to study someone who had a learning deficit, or someone who had epilepsy or something of this kind.
Now, to carry this further, are they using the VoxelView software locally at the hospital here, or in university hospitals in Iowa City, or anywhere around in our area?
Probably the closest site to us is in St. Louis at Washington University, where
Okay.
I got my PhD degree. There at the Mallinckrodt Institute there, of course, which is world famous. There is a major activity there, and that's actually one of the largest concentrations of our software. They have 5 or 6 licenses now. We also have a major research partnership and product development partnership with Duke University Medical Center in Durham. Duke has developed an application for advanced radiology, neuroradiology. A young radiological fellow there, Linda Gray, has developed this technique for studying aneurysms in the brain, the blisters or balloons which appear on blood vessels in the case of some injury or disease in the brain. And these, of course, are very dangerous. If they burst, they cause a sudden hemorrhage, and they can cause extensive damage or even death. And so diagnosing these quickly, if someone comes into the emergency room and they have a severe headache, they have a family history of this kind of problem, you want to be able to isolate and decide whether or not this person has this problem and whether or not it's operable as quickly as possible. And these images, which we can produce in just a few seconds, were developed at Duke to aid that process, and they've subsequently made announcements about this in press releases as a new medical technique. This other image shows another view of the same data set, where you see the vessels of the brain in pink here, and this sausage-shaped thing in the middle is the aneurysm, this large balloon in the base of this person's skull. And this is...
Now, of course, it's important that the viewers understand that you've done all this without invading the
That's
body.
right. This is a non-invasive process. This is done by taking a standard CT scan, a high-resolution CT scan, and then reprocessing the data to produce this enhanced image.
Well, Vincent, if we can, we'd like to take a break in the filming and go out to one of your workstations and show the people actually some visual pictures of the 3D imagery that I've seen before, but I'm very anxious for the audience tonight to see.
Very good.
This is Mike Brewer back again with Dr. Vincent Argiro here at Vital Images in Fairfield, Iowa. And we've moved to a workstation where Vincent's going to show us some of the actual workings of the VoxelGeo in a medical application.
That's right. We are looking here at a Silicon Graphics workstation, the most advanced actually, which they manufacture. This workstation is about a $150,000 computer and is far more powerful than pretty much any other computer in Fairfield, I'd have to say.
Can you show us what we're going to be seeing here?
What we're going to look at is a session of VoxelGeo running on the CT study of a person's aneurysm in the head, which I just spoke about recently. So this is the opaque outer view of the person's brain, and we can see how the computer reconstructs the three-dimensional data into a solid image here. And this is quite illustrative to have a sense of the context, and that each of these slices are the original slices off the CT, but they've all been stacked back together, and so we're looking in a sense at like an extruded radiogram of a solid image. Now if we go to a different setting, we'll be able to see the way a radiologist has interpreted this data, the same data. We've now made it transparent so we can look down inside of the person's skull. Here are the eyes here, the eye sockets, and this is the base of the cavity where the brain is located. And in the base of that cavity we see these blood vessels running through. This is called the circle of Willis, this circle of blood vessels around the spinal cord. And here is this large aneurysm, which is quite a problem for this individual patient. And to my understanding, this patient was successfully treated after this diagnosis. Just to give you a more vivid picture, we'll show an animation of that aneurysm. Now we're looking at it as it's being tipped around by the computer to different viewpoints, and we've changed the settings so that we see it as a shiny, transparent object inside, and we've cut away the confusion of the rest of the surrounding brain tissue.
So that a doctor and neurologist in this case would have the opportunity to look at the aneurysm in a 3D context.
This helps the radiologist very significantly in communicating to the surgeon what is an appropriate approach, because you can appreciate here, this aneurysm is right in the center of your head. So for a surgeon to get in without causing any additional damage and improve this person's chances of survival, It takes very delicate planning, and being able to see the whole neighborhood from three dimensions helps that process significantly. Here now is one other example of what we can do with VoxelGeo. This is from the fast CT scanner, ultra-fast CT scanner manufactured by Imatron in South San Francisco. And this is, as you can probably see, an entire rib cage of a person with the heart sitting in the middle. As the images scan by, you can see the heart reconstruct this whole three-dimensional structure. And this was taken by a scanner in just a few seconds, and the images can be captured fast enough to freeze the motion of the heart and get very clear pictures. And what what radiologists in working with Imatron have discovered is that the precursors of serious heart disease, the hardening of the coronary arteries, can be detected specifically by this process. So here is the two-dimensional picture of the person's heart, and here you can see the white streaks of hardening of the arteries in this person's heart.
Well, this has been a very enjoyable experience, and I certainly know that the audience tonight will enjoy viewing the activities here at Vital Images. Let us take a break now and look at the world map on the outer section of your office, and we'll talk just in closing moments about your customer base.
Thank you.
This is Mike Brewer back again with Channel 9 Chamber Talk. We're visiting Vital Images here in Fairfield, Iowa, and it's been our pleasure to have Dr. Vincent Argiro with us as our guide today, as we've taken a quick tour through Vital Images and visited with you about the attributes of your company and how it's affected the medical world, medical science, as well as the human life involved, but also in terms of the VoxelGeo that's being used out of Houston now, and I understand you've got some people going to Houston to work on the geology of gas and oil exploration. You're taking all the fun out of the old out of the old prospector system, I can tell. So once again, let me say thank you to you in opening up your company and your time to show the audience here in Fairfield a little bit about Vital Images, and we certainly wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much.
I'd like you to explain a little bit about the map that we're standing in front of.
The map behind us is our installed base of software sites, color-coded by the different applications. So the red and the orange are the biomedical sites, and the green down here are the oil and gas sites. And you can see the broad distribution throughout the U.S. We have some of their actually customers out here that one of our board members suggested, so that people don't forget that they're real people using this software out there in far-flung areas. And of course, we have a concentration of users in Europe and in Japan and in Australia as well. And a couple now beginning in Africa and South America.
Well, it's all very interesting, and of course, to a layperson like myself, I'm totally fascinated with you and your business and your people, but more particularly the fact that you developed this as an extension of Maharishi International University right here in Fairfield, and you've taken the technology and transferred it over to the private sector, and you're successfully employing, you said 24 employees here in Fairfield. So that's a success story in its own right, and we congratulate you for that.
Thank you, and thank you, the community of Fairfield, for all the support in hosting the business here.
With that, this is Mike Brewer with the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce, wishing everyone a very pleasant week.